Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Nicholas Zard, and I will be your host on this Electric Air Mobility.news video. And I believe this is our third one, and it's also Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day. It's the 14th of February 2024. And I wanted to explain a little bit about what you'll be seeing more and more on Electric Air News, Air Mobility.news as I finally get the website up and running. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of delays, and we're working on that. Same thing with this recording of OBS, but now, hey, at least I figured out an okay background. It's not perfect, but we'll get there. And lastly, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. I've been around for roughly 17 years in the electric mobility industries. I've followed very closely the original electric vehicles, the EV rebirth in 2007, 2006. I've been very close to a lot of startups and OEMs. I've seen a lot of things. I spent most of my time as a journalist and a consultant. And somewhere in 2014, I switched over to aviation and have done the same. So today I want to talk about something that we don't always talk about, and that has a lot of misconceptions, and that's the infrastructure of advanced air mobility. And what I mean by infrastructure, I mean vertiports and what it takes to design a vertiport, to run a vertiport. So my company, Electric Air Mobility, the LLC, really does that. We are a bunch of veteran professionals, consultants out there who have worked in the aviation industry, in most cases for decades, and we offer a way to build your vertiport, your network of vertiports intelligently so that they are robust and flexible. So when we talk about a vertiport, we're talking about at least three different things that need to go in a vertiport, right? So the first thing is a terminal. It's for humans. Humans need to go on an eVTOL. The other one are the landing sites, so the vertipads. And the last part is the energy and the operation side of things. Okay, so we'll start first with the vertipads. I think that's probably the most important thing. There are two types of vertipads out there. This is really where your eVTOLs will come in, land, and take off. And remember, they're not going to hover straight up and down. That's too energy intensive. It makes no sense. Helicopters fly like this. So there are two types of vertipads out there. There's the static part, the static ones, and the intelligent vertipads, or the smart vertipads. Now the statics are going to be a slab of concrete, and it will have some sort of de-icing system, especially if it's in the northern hemispheres of our planet, where it ices in the winter. You don't want any ice. All of them will have a grippy surface, because once your eVTOL has landed, whether it's raining, icy, muddy, it needs to stay put. So all of these vertipads will also need to have great water drainage. Not only that, but they will have to have some sort of safety feature so that no debris gets picked up, thrown into your terminals, hitting people along the way, or cars parked nearby. Now that pretty much does everything for a static vertipad. A smart vertipad is going to be very interesting, and a lot of companies are working on that, but they will have sensors that will be able to communicate with the eVTOL that just landed. So these sensors will be able to say, hey, we'll figure out, the communication protocol between both, handshake, and then they will say, all right, they'll talk to the operator, they'll talk to the vertiport operator and say, hey, this eVTOL from, let's say, Eve Air Mobility is 3/4 of the way charged, can make it to this destination, only had these passengers, came from there. A whole list of important and crucial information, and will give vertiport owners and operators a sense of a pre-checked flight list or something like that. So that will give you also plenty of way to lower your insurance costs, because you will know the state of operations of that vertiport. It's very exciting, smart vertipad. The other important thing is the energy. How and what will you use as far as energy for these eVTOLs? Now, for the most part, eVTOLs are going to be electric, so obviously we'll need charging stations. And right now, while there aren't a lot of choices when it comes to charging stations, the biggest one out there is probably Beta. Joby has their own, and there's also another company out in Australia, and hopefully another one here in the US. But so far, the ones that actually have a charging station and it's ready to be used are Beta and Joby. These charging stations will need to handle a huge amount of currents. So placing your vertiport next to a substation is extremely crucial. We'll talk about renewable energies and we'll talk about all that, but this is something, of course, that we help into the design of our vertiports. Having a charging station that can eventually charge more than one eVTOL is going to be extremely important. As much as we all love the wonderful designs of these huge vertiports with 10, 15 vertipads, yeah, that's going to be 10 years down the road, and not $15 million, but $35 million over budget. Most likely, the very first vertiports we will see will have 1 to 2 to maybe 5 at the most vertipads. So think about this. You have an eVTOL that came in, people are out, people are coming in. You're not going to be able to recharge fully that eVTOL in 5 or 10 minutes. It will take 40 minutes to fully recharge it. But even if you want to top it off, it might be really difficult to actually charge an eVTOL right there on the landing on the vertipad. If anything happens, that eVTOL is stuck. You want to keep that vertipad running all the time, right? So we need to also, and we have figured out, but we need to figure out a way to move these eVTOLs to a charging station parking lot where we can charge not only 1, but 2 to 3 to 5 eVTOLs, and let's say 1 or 2 eSTOLs, the bigger airplane version, the fixed wing airplane, electric airplane versions of that. And why not? The EVs that came in to charge in the parking lot. And if you're close to a river or the water or the sea, electric boats, right? So think about all of this right now as we're starting to develop our next vertiports. So another thing too is now we have electricity. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but in some parts, especially here in the U.S., where our grid is on pretty shaky grounds, we need to think about storage solution, energy storage solution, and in our case, battery energy storage solution, static, stationary. They stay there. So we're going to bury underground a big block of a big battery pack, basically. And that will be helpful because at night, when electricity is plentiful, it's available, it's usually a lot less expensive than during peak time. We'll be able to recharge that battery pack and then use that battery pack to charge our eVTOLs. And this is where, by the way, the recycling lithium battery packs is fantastic because even though those lithium battery packs are no longer good to fly an eVTOL or to even drive an EV, well, they're perfect for local storage systems. Now, since we also know now that the very first eVTOLs, well, might not be electric, but might be hybrid, especially when it comes to 4-seaters, 5-seaters, 7-seaters, hybrid technology now becomes an important part of it all. Most likely the first eVTOLs that will fly, those that will fly for longer than 5 minutes, those that will fly for 100 miles, will be hybrid. They will either use Jet A or sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, SAF, whichever you want to call it, when it becomes a little bit more prevalent in the next few years or so. So that means we also need a queue storage system where we can put Jet A and SAF when it comes in. Another technology that's coming around the corner, and yes, mea culpa, nobody has the crystal ball. Nobody knows which ones are going to work. My hunch, according to my experience in this field, is let's plan on all of them because at one point or another, all of them will work together. Maybe not at every single vertiports out there, but at least the bigger vertiports. But that other technology you might have heard about is hydrogen. Hydrogen is a wonderful wow word. Everybody gets excited about hydrogen. And we need to plan for hydrogen. So luckily we're working with an interesting vendor who found a solution that fits within a container and that can put out about 2 megs of watt of electricity. So again, we can use electricity at night when it's available, plentiful, not expensive, make hydrogen. And now we have 2 choices. Now we can make hydrogen and use that hydrogen to feed our eVTOLs that will use hydrogen, or we can convert it into electricity and charge those eVTOLs. Savvy listeners and watchers will probably think, hang on a second, electricity, storage. Well, yes, you're right. Now it means that vertiports can open up an extra revenue, an extra stream of revenue, and that's to become an energy reseller with your local grids. Now this is a case-per-case scenario. It really depends on where you live and where you are. But potentially every vertiport operator and owner that creates energy, that stores energy, can potentially also become an energy reseller. So this is going to be very important, very crucial. And if we're going to talk about that, then we also need to talk about making the internal grid of the vertiports, maybe even the network of vertiports, the vertiports inside a city, inside an airport, smart grid capable. Plenty to talk about that, and we'll interview the right people to explain all of that. So as you see, it's complex, but not too difficult. You just need to design a vertiport intelligently. The next thing we want to talk about is obviously the terminal. Terminals are going to be maybe a little bit closer to what helipad terminals are these days. Not as big as what we're used to in big international airports, but still the same logic. We want the flow to be smooth and seamless, but we do want security there. Not only we want security there, but we want to have a security room so that, you know, once in a while we might have passengers who are not capable of getting on a flight without causing trouble. That happens these days. So think of another thing too that a client of ours showed us that could easily happen is, what if you have that passenger that walks in with, let's say, 300 pounds of suitcases? No operator wants to be caught with that one without having some sort of solution for that. And obviously we'll need to have scales in the right place to make sure that the people getting on board and their luggages are not overweight so that they take seats away from other passengers. This is where your counterpart to eVTOL's drones operation, the uncrewed eVTOLs, are going to be extremely helpful. Because now you can say, excuse me, sir, madam, your suitcases can't fly. It's too heavy for this flight. However, our drone operations can bring your suitcases directly to where you will not only land, but where you will go. So you can offer that as an extra service. Now, drone operations, I can't say enough how important they are. They're so crucial to the well-being of a vertiport operation. They need to be integrated from the get-go. They will help with traffic management, well, ATM, air traffic management, but also uncrewed traffic management. And we're not even going to talk about first responders. We'll do a whole series on that, I promise you. So now you have a pretty good idea of what needs to happen to have a vertiport that will grow intelligently as the demand ramps up in the future. I hope this gives you a good idea of what we do. And also I'd like to extend an invitation. If you're in Dubai at the end of this month on the 27th, we'll be in Ras Al Khaimah talking about innovations in advanced air mobility. I'll be presenting a keynote, or I'll be presenting a keynote speech, I guess, there, another one. I just did one in Lisbon where we talked about, you know, preparing for advanced air mobility. And the gist of it was really, think about it now and take into consideration all of these things, hydrogen included, SAF included. It doesn't really matter because you're spending pennies on the dollars tomorrow. Okay, so I hope you can meet us at the Arab Air Summit at the end of the month in Ras Al Khaimah, or RAS, I guess, as we shorten it these days, where we will talk a little bit more about innovations in this industry and what you can learn from it, what you can glean from it. I hope you found this video insightful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and please leave comments. Also, please visit our Patreon page. And if you want to buy me a coffee, why, thank you very much, because we want to keep this free and insightful and full of education. So we hope that you've enjoyed this. My name is Nicolas Zart, and I hope to see you back again here. Thank you. Bye-bye.